today I want to talk a little bit about this very, it can be a pretty contentious topic, right? And it's about the topic of ADHD. And I want to give you a bit of this is gonna be a longer video where I cover a lot of things in depth about ADHD. Okay, so what motivated me to make this video is I had recently had a discussion on Reddit about ADHD. And you know what? This is one of the discussions on Reddit that I keep coming back onto. When I first started coaching people on Reddit, I coached people about action, which is something that a lot of people want coaching on because people procrastinate a lot and they want to do stuff, but then they find themselves not doing the things, right? So every time I coach on that, there is a common reply to that is, this is ableist. And basically, the coaching that I give says, just try harder. Don't, and you just gotta do it. And the rebuttal that I get is like, ADHD brains don't work that way, right? Okay, so so that was like the first year, and thankfully over time I have gotten better at my job, which is coaching. I have learned more things, and more importantly, I have worked with a lot of people with varying degrees of neurodiversity, right? Okay, so my core discovery is that ADHD and neurodivergence in general is a spectrum. So you can't put all ADHD people into one bucket. Some ADHD people will be fairly functioning, but at times they are going to have episodic ADHD. Some people will have a more persistent ADHD where they really struggle with daily functions related to, executive actions. So what we have to understand is it's a spectrum, right? Now, the extreme binary that I used to work with people is this, right? On one end, I treat you like you are actually ill in the head, which can be the case. This is not meant to be a derogatory kind of a thing. Like, it is actually a neurochemical imbalance because of your brain chemistry and how the DNA is unfolding in your brain. So this is a likely scenario, right? This can happen. In that case, we have to treat it as like an extension of a disability. And, maybe it's not at that level of disability, but more like really poor eyesight or the inability to hear well. In these cases, if it's not actually, your audio function is not actually gone, if you are not actually your vision is completely not impaired, then we can do corrective things, right? And so, one way of thinking about ADHD is, yes, you can't do anything without these tools. You can't do anything without these medications. You can't do anything without these external crutches. And so let's build that support system for you. That is definitely one way to go. On the other hand, right? The other extreme is, hey, I want to play basketball like Kevin Durant. But the thing is, I'm a 5'10" Asian guy. And I have a lot of body fat compared to KD. So, I want to play like KD, but I have to accept the reality that I can't. In this lifetime, it's very likely that I will never set foot in the NBA. But if I want to, but what if I want to? I want to so bad. That's only going to invite suffering into my life, right? So in this case, we have to work with the mindset. Hey, you know what? I acknowledge. And I agree. There are a lot of things I want to do in my life. But the thing is, I don't have the inherited conditions for it. So I wasn't born with great genetic gifts that made me exceptionally tall. I wasn't born with exceptional athleticism. So if I want to play ball and be happy, I need to be able to accept that I will likely not be like KD, and the more I want to be like KD, the more I am placing my happiness on unrealistic expectations, and therefore it is very unlikely that I am going to be unhappy. So, on one hand, I need to be able to accept myself wherever I am. What makes talking about ADHD in a public forum very difficult is if I am working with you in a one-on-one coaching relationship, right? I can actually hear your perspective out. And we can find the right balance between doing something about it. Like, for example, I wear glasses, right? This means my eyes aren't perfectly good. I can't see street signs without my glasses. Okay, so on one hand, if I want to be like a Mongolian, like a, eagle person, I'm sorry, I don't know the word, like falconry. If I want to do Mongolian falconry, like with like 20/20 eyesights, I have to accept that I realistically can't do that. But at the same time, it would be kind of strange for me to not wear glasses and drive around places and, hit things, right? Because, if I tell the cops, I just can't see without my glasses, but, I don't feel like wearing one because this is how I was born, that won't really stand up in court, right? So in that line of thought, we have to find the right balance of doing something about it, but at the same time accepting ourselves where we are at. Now, but the thing is, we can do it if we are in a coaching relationship. But just generally talking about ADHD, I'm already, 6 minutes and 40 seconds into this video. But normally people want to consume shorter videos, right? Which means I have to make sacrifices in terms of what I talk about. So maybe in ADHD, I talk a little bit more about like accepting yourself. Then people come and they're like, no, ADHD is not like that, which I completely understand, right? The thing is, if you told me something about being Korean, and if you told me that about something about being an Asian man in America, and it's very different from my experience, I understand how I would be upset too, right? So I completely accept and understand that from that kind of a perspective, I am ableist. But at the same time, just labeling the entire approach as labelist is a little bit reductionist, because it fails to see that yes, I understand you are neurodivergent. Yes, I understand you have ADHD, but you might not be seeing that ADHD and neurodivergence in general is a spectrum. Not all ADHD people will have the same opinion as you and the same experience as you. But because we live in our brain, right, it is so difficult for us to see things outside of our perspective. And because of that, that's why I don't enforce my views on you, right? But chances are, if you're struggling with ADHD, it's a different kind of experience from you just accepting that you have ADHD and you having, yeah, paperwork is slow. Yeah, you do things near the deadline. But if you don't have a problem with it, that's fine. But if you're struggling with executive action, if you are struggling with ADHD, then chances are you might want to consider a different viewpoint about ADHD, right? And that is where coaching comes in. But again, because you do have a point if you have a specific opinion about ADHD based on your life experience. Yes. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that other viewpoints are not valid. And in talking about neurodivergence, it's very difficult to completely contain this full range of experience as we talk about it, right? Because every time I talk about ADHD, I can't give you this 9-minute talk as a preface and then go in. Sometimes we need to pick and concentrate some messagings that we have to do for the purposes of a video or a post. And in this video, I wanted to spend a little bit more time completely explaining how I think about ADHD and how I think about executive action. It's a spectrum. Sometimes you have to do something that helps you in, physical, biological way. Sometimes you have to be able to accept and do things in the range of what you can. And again, you are entitled to your opinion, and I respect that. But if you are struggling with ADHD, having a more comprehensive view, a more holistic view of ADHD, and adapting a more balanced approach to your executive action, it will lead to a great result in the long run. Now, with that said, I am taking clients. If you are struggling with ADHD and you want to work with me to find that balance of how to function with a way that you can do something about, and also accepting where you are at today, I would love to talk to you. And you can email me at billy@julylifecoach to get started. And billy@julylifecoach.com, forgot the important part. Or leave me a comment here, and then I'd be happy to discuss things further.